You're listening to Hayes Radio Network, Cannabis Lifestyle Radio.
Business of Cannabis is brought to you by CashTech Currency Products, North America's leading cash management provider for cannabis retailers. Cash recyclers, smart safes, software and services, CashTech has everything the cannabis retailer needs to track, manage, and secure the cash earned in the dispensary. Don't take chances with your cash. Call CashTech and solve the problem. Visit www.cashtechcurrency.com to learn more.
You're listening to Hayes Radio Network, Cannabis Lifestyle Radio.
This is the business of cannabis.
The use of cannabis.
Welcome to the business of cannabis, and today we'll be speaking to more of the leading figures in the retail cannabis industry. I'm your host, David Skye, and I'm joined by my co-host, Matt Cook, for a couple of the interviews. Matt and I will be speaking to Stuart Lutterman from Brothers Processing, and Stuart will talk to us about payments, and with the difficulty in banking, payments remain a significant challenge for many retailers. Next, I speak to Louis Antonakis, who's the owner and operator of Olympia Cannabis. And Louis will take us through what it's like to grow quickly from 1 to 7 dispensaries. And finally, we speak to Jake Kuczeruk, and he's with the ArcView Group. ArcView is a significant longtime player in the space, raising money, investing, brokerage, consulting. Jake will give us sort of a North American perspective on the state of the industry. So let's get started.
Welcome. We're here with Stuart Lutterman from Brothers Processing. Welcome, Stuart.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So Stuart is he's the founder and CEO of Brothers Processing. Stuart, why don't you tell us a bit about Brothers Processing?
Well, first of all, Brother Processing just had its 10-year anniversary. And
congratulations.
Yes, congratulations. Look at that. I didn't know.
Thank you. And it began when I worked at a big corporate company in the industry, learned the industry, and realized, why aren't I doing this for myself, and so forth. So Brother Processing was founded with my brother as well at the time, and hence our name Brother Processing. But the name Brother Processing also came with our family-oriented sort of mentality type of thing with our clients. And really what we strive for is we're not going to come in the door and say, oh, we have the best rates, we have the best fees, which every other Harry, Dick, and Tom focus on. What we focus on, especially in this new niche that we have found, is what's important is we find a solution that they don't have to look over their shoulder for and worry that an account's going to be shut down and so forth. As that happens every day with, Stripe, PayPal, Square, and, all those third-party vendors and so forth.
Yeah, that's been a big problem in this industry. So maybe later you can expand on that.
Yeah, well, we really try to educate our clients and consult with them, and that's what the discussions are about. They're not about pricing. They're about how to make sure that you have a solution to accept payments that has longevity to say the most.
So how did you end up in the cannabis industry? You said that, why am I not doing this for myself? Maybe walk us through that a little bit.
Well, definitely getting into the cannabis industry is only about 2.5 years now that I've been focusing on this niche. And honestly, the real story behind it is I had sold the house, I had made some money, and I said, okay, I'm going to put this into some stocks. And then all of a sudden, people started talking to me about the marijuana stocks, and that was, pre-legalization. And so next thing you know, I'm doing a lot of research. I'm, investing into some of the big names like Canopy Growth and Aurora and Afria and so forth. So once we were able to hear exactly that there's a niche here that sort of needs some attention because of the stigma of the industry in cannabis, and with most of the banks not wanting to deal with it, even if it is an illegal setting type of thing. So, we got into this because we saw that there was a need and that we were able to help people, but not just with payments. So the bigger picture, which I can talk about a little bit after, is helping these people in any way, shape, or form we can, whether that's finding them a marketer, whether that's liking a Google review, whether it's liking their Facebook page, whatever it is that we can do to think outside of the box to bring value to the table, because we're not here to just sign up these clients, thank you very much, and never speak to you again. I've actually are in touch with my clients at least once a quarter type of thing. And the biggest and most rewarding part of this niche is the people really appreciate the service and the information. And I joke about it, but I've gotten so many gifts from different dispensaries and different CBD companies because they were just so happy that I was able to find them a solution to accept payments, and they didn't have to look over their shoulder.
Yeah, and we hear that all the time as well. So that's great. So tell me, what choices do cannabis dispensaries have when it comes to accepting non-cash payments?
Well, we're going to have to divide that up because we work on both sides of the border in Canada.
That's fine.
And the US. In Canada, anybody who is a licensed retail dispensary or an LP, they're able to go with your typical tier 1 type of bank, like a Moneris or a, Elevon or First Data, and they really won't have much issues, except they get stemmed out for a $500 high risk fee, and the underwriting process just takes a little bit longer. But as long as they have their license and everything's in order, then most of the major banks will go near them. But there's definitely a few. I believe TD is one. I believe Desjardins is another. That even though it's fully legal and everything like that, they don't want to go near the business because of the stigma of the industry, which they obviously think that will affect their current clients. So that being said, in Canada, we're able to help anybody with that, and they do have more choices. And then we work also with dispensaries that are in the First Nations. And that's really been a big market for us. And I guess you can call it the gray area, but really in the reserves, they have their own rules and their own laws and so forth, and they don't have people knocking on their doors. So we have an Interact solution in Canada, which we have the ability to give these services to these dispensaries in the reserves, as long as they have a legitimate business and a legitimate bank account. So that's proven to help a lot of these dispensaries, A, to get rid of their issue of cash, and B, the cherry on top is now all of a sudden people are spending more money because they're not just counting on the cash they have in their pocket or the cash they get out of an ATM. And, once they have their debit card, you know what, I have that money in my account, so I'll spend a little bit more. So we've definitely noticed, this is an average. I mean, we've seen it as high as 300% throughout COVID, but the average of people who start using our Interact solution, sales increased by 25%. But I'll give you just a quick example of a year ago, a dispensary chain in BC went from 2 locations in the past year to 9 locations. So, the growth is there, and, the need for the payments is there, especially when, you just can't deal with Visa and MasterCard. And the big plus about all this is even in regular retail license that can get a regular merchant account with Visa and MasterCard, 85% of their volume, as we've studied their statements and see what type of cards they're using, is Interact. And one of the main reasons for that is confidentiality to the transaction. And people, might not want, if they share a credit card, a husband and wife, to see, they bought $300 of marijuana, and then they see it on the credit card and so forth, where with an Interact transaction, it doesn't appear like that. And the last thing I'll mention to that, it's the American government, when we did go legal, instilled a fear into Canadians that, if they feel that they're coming into the United States with marijuana or with the intention to sell or anything like that, they have the ability to subpoena their credit card statements, but not their bank statements. Now, I don't know what that was. That was over 2 years ago that was done. But like I said, meanwhile, Interact seems to be the payment of choice. Obviously, you go into a clothing store, and it's going to be the complete opposite. They're going to have 80 or 85% Visa and MasterCard, and maybe 15 or 20% Interact. And in Canada as well, when it comes to CBD merchants or cannabis-related merchants, whether that be paraphernalia, the bongs or any of that type of stuff, we work with the only bank in Canada that will board that type of stuff online, and it's been a great solution. Obviously, we're not the only one that works with that bank, but we've been working with them for about 2.5 years. We were one of the first ISOs or resellers for that bank, and today the plus is I know what these underwriters are looking for when we're submitting applications. So we do get a lot of inquiries of people, like I said, who have been shut down by Shopify, PayPal, or Square, and they didn't know any better. And next thing you know, we get them an account, and they're able to process, and their business is saved. They have an online company that you need to accept credit cards. So we're able to do it in most situations, and so forth. And in the I'll skip very quickly right to the United States. For dispensaries who are licensed, we don't have any real solution for anybody in First Nations in the US right now, but we work with the licensed dispensaries across the United States. And right now we work with a solution which is called a cashless ATM. And it basically works like an ATM, but instead of the money being withdrawn from a machine, the debit card that's being used for the transaction, the money's actually through a terminal going into the merchant's bank account. So we're helping them with the cash issue. They do not pay anything for that transaction. It acts like an ATM transaction. So the client is the one that pays that $3 surcharge, for example. But of course, there are choices in those situations where I've had merchants say, well, can I pay $1 of that $3? Because I don't want my clients to spend $3. I only want them to spend $2. Or some merchants are, well, can we charge $4 and can I make $1? So we've seen both sides of it. And it's the same thing in the US, except in the US, we work with about 5 or 6 different banks that focus on cannabis related. And then there's 3 banks that focus on CBD. So that's where we stand as far as the choices they have. And they're only going to become more and more. But I can tell you a year ago, we didn't have all these choices, and things weren't as smooth, and people were just driving themselves nuts. And
Yeah,
that's it.
yeah, and we're hearing the same thing. So thanks for that. So tell me, Stuart, what are your plans for the future as it relates to Brothers Processing?
We took on a new venture recently where I took on some partners who have been in the industry as well for a while, but when they heard the niche that I was focusing on, like, we seem to know a lot of people and seem to have contacts. And we basically teamed up with the venture of focusing on this cannabis industry. And today, I mean, if you Google, Canada credit card processing for cannabis, we have a very good presence on Google right away. So we're trying to create a footprint in the cannabis industry on both sides of the border. And we're starting now. And I believe it's still the beginning and it's still fresh for everything. And in 5 years, we want to be that company that has anything to do with cannabis merchants or dispensaries or CBD or the paraphernalia, whatever it is, or the vape or all that stuff, that we're the company to come see, because maybe at that point, yes, we won't treat startups different than we do someone doing, $100,000 a month. And that we will bring a lot of other added values to the table, which we can definitely talk about next time. But we don't want to just be someone who provides payments for these businesses. We want to provide other tools and solutions and little things like I was talking about, doing a Google review or liking a Facebook page. We want to do all these things to help these merchants, because at the end of the day, our motto is, and it's really not to sound corny, but their success is my success. So obviously we have our best interest in mind to make sure that our clients are happy. And if they run into any challenges, that we have solutions for them as well.
Yeah, and I concur with that, and I think that's why we're here to elevate the knowledge of everyone in the industry and hopefully make everything easier for people to operate in this ever-changing and very interesting business as it stands right now. Stuart from Brothers Processing, thank you so much for being on the show today, and really appreciate your time. And hopefully we'll talk again soon.
My pleasure. It was a pleasure to get a chance to talk about this type of stuff, because we just have to keep helping each other, and we're all fighting the same battle. So,
thanks, Stuart. Stuart Lutterman from Brothers Processing. Thanks very much.
The Business of Cannabis is brought to you by CashTech Currency Products, North America's leading cash management provider for cannabis retailers. Cash recyclers, smart safes, software and services, CashTech has everything the cannabis retailer needs to track, manage, and secure the cash earned in the dispensary. Don't take chances with your cash. Call CashTech and solve the problem. Visit www.cashtechcurrency.com to learn more. Well, welcome back. This is the Business of Cannabis, and we're pretty excited to have our next guest. This is Louis Antonakis. He is the owner and operator of Olympia Cannabis, which is a chain of, will be a chain of up to 7 locations over the next little while. Louis has a fascinating background, restaurant business, real estate, nightclub owner, and a mayor of Carleton Place, which is in Ontario, Canada. And Louis' background brings it, I believe, a unique understanding of the challenges facing dispensary owners, and that's why we're grateful he's made the time to speak to us. Welcome, Louis.
Dave, it's a pleasure to be on the show and always good to talk to you.
Well, let's just jump right into that because it is an interesting story. Give me the background to the Olympia story and how you got involved in this space.
Right. Well, my family have been involved in the service industry for over 50 years, Dave. It started with my mom and dad, and they immigrated to Canada from Europe, Greece particularly. And they settled in a beautiful small town in Carleton Place, had a very successful restaurant called the Olympia Restaurant. And over a series of events, it was sold and afterwards remained vacant. I was involved in my community as a elected official. I served 12 years, and I saw our communities across Ontario really having some difficulty keeping up with the box stores and just redevelopment in general across the landscape. So through my work as an elected official and being aware that the feds were coming in with the legalization of cannabis, I realized that there was an opportunity for both people like myself who are entrepreneurial and who like new things, new challenges, and also for the country, generally speaking, something that's new, hadn't been, it's not like we had a series of restaurants. It's something that was brand new to our country, one of the first in the world, actually. So I saw that opportunity, and I decided to enter it and locate our first location in downtown Carleton Place. It's a community of around 12,000 people. We were the first legal cannabis store in Lanark County, and we are today getting ready to go through our final inspection of our second location in a small community in just outside of near the 401 in Tweed. So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
So for those of people
story.
listening who aren't, this is in Canada. This is just sort of a community, few hours outside of Toronto. So
Correct.
These are small towns. Is that your growth strategy to focus on maybe smaller geographic locations, or are there plans to maybe go into a larger urban setting? What are your thoughts?
Our rollout is obviously started in Carleton Place. It's my hometown. I know it well. And we are branching out from there. Carleton Place is the epicenter of our operation. We do have 7 in the queue right now. One of them is located in downtown Ottawa. And yes, primarily we are focused on small town Ontario, population from 20,000 down to 2,000 to 3,000 people. So that's where we stand now. As we expand and look towards the future, I think some of the bigger cities could be in play, but there are some very specific challenges right now in the larger centers. You're seeing that in big cities like Toronto, Yonge Street, Bloor Street, fairly high concentration of stores. And I think it's going to be a significant challenge for some of the existing operators.
So let's ask about, like, you started with the one place in the one location at Carleton Place. What was the biggest challenge you faced opening that? And then jump to me. Okay, now what was the biggest challenge opening a second one?
Right.
Or was there a difference?
Yeah, they're somewhat similar. Obviously, capital is a significant challenge. We're seeing that the big banks, the chartered banks, are not allowing cannabis to be part of their financing portfolio.
That's terrible.
There's only one that I'm aware of, which is the Bank of Montreal, and it's a very expensive fee, non-refundable fee just to get in. There's another bank that many of the stores are using. It's called Alterna Bank. They're a little bit more lenient and accepting of cannabis, but that is a big one right there. If you can't self-finance or find the investors that'll take that gamble and take that risk, it is an uphill battle. Once you've secured the financing, there's a series of other regulatory hurdles that you have to go to. You've got to first get approved to sell cannabis. That's an individual thing. And once you go through that process, took me a year from start to finish. And the second phase of that year was getting your location licensed. They call that an RSA. And was around 6 months. Now it's shortened down to about 2 to 3 months if you got all your ducks in order, as they say. But it encompasses everything, Dave, from the financing, from finding the right location, negotiating your lease, hiring your staff, having a management team, ordering product from the Ontario Cannabis Store. It's a challenge.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Well,
what are you doing?
It's certainly not for everyone. There's no question about it.
Right.
But for me, I like dealing with people. As I said at the onset of the show, I've always been involved with the service industry. Those are the people that are my friends. They're my social network, and I just love solving problems and doing so. Sometimes helping people, and I find this industry is about solving problems, and that's the challenge that I like. I like solving problems and taking care of people who need help, and for me, that's why I do it.
Well, cannabis is fascinating because it's an industry that sort of grew up overnight because of legalization. So I can't think of, since Prohibition, I can't think of another industry where it didn't exist and now it does exist. I mean, it existed on the illicit market, obviously. But also the potential. There aren't too many industries where you go, what's going to happen in the future? You've alluded to some of the challenges, but yet you're expanding. So what is it about the industry that you're hopeful for? Let's turn it to the positive. What do you see happening over the next 5 years that would justify this kind of investment and effort?
The feds had to roll this out in a way that was, they had to be careful about this because
this is the Canadian government, by the way,
exactly, and to the province to some extent as well. They had to be careful. It was new to them, and they wanted to make sure that it was done in a safe, efficient, and in a way that protects the industry in the long term. There was some deviations from the beginning where they had the lottery system and then they opened it up. So I guess what I'm hopeful for, Dave, is that the federal government working together with the provincial government starts to expand the product offerings and allow us as entrepreneurs to take this where it can go. And I see cannabis products, whether that's topical creams or you're seeing the edibles come into play now. People are getting quite supporting the edibles, the drinks. So it's rolling out slowly. The province is doing the best they can along with the federal government, but we'd like to see it speed up a little bit and ease up on some of the regulatory hurdles, put some legislation in place so our chartered banks have to allow us to borrow capital. Without those kinds of intervention,
without the capital support, it is an uphill battle in any business. I mean, at the end of the day, cannabis is a business. It's unique, but it's no different than a restaurant. You have costs, expenses, you have growth
and it's legal.
plans,
Dave, it's legal. Yeah.
It is a funny thing. The reticence around the financial institution, but let me jump on something you just mentioned on the product side. From even the short, time you've been in business, do you find it getting better? Do you find the choice and quality sort of leveled off? Do you see opportunity for growth there? What's happening there? Because at the end of the day, I mean, that's why people are coming. The variety of the product you're offering and the choices.
Yeah, they're definitely moving in the right direction. As I said, they started with the flower, the oils, the CBDs, topicals. I think that's really the LP world, the licensed producers those are the groups that are going to drive that, the research, the development, the investment in that industry. As retailers, all we can do, at least in Ontario, is hope that the OCS, the province, is encouraging the licensed producers to develop and bring these items to market so that we can buy them and bring them into our stores and offer them to our patrons, our customers. So there has been some movement. You're seeing now some product being developed for our pets, for dogs.
Wow. Yes, I've read that. Yeah.
Right. So these
some lucky dogs.
We all need a little bit of help.
Yeah, some very spoiled dogs are about to get a good Christmas, maybe.
You get a dog bone, and you get a little bit of oil to go with that.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, though, this is a very serious item for a lot of pet owners, where you're seeing their pets developing anxiety, and just not yeah. So those kinds of things, I think, that's what's going to drive our industry. Is everyone working together and bringing new, exciting products to market, be it health or recreation. That's what's going to drive our business and power the economy, quite frankly, because right now these are difficult times for any business. You've seen the restaurant industry decimated through this crisis, the pandemic. So, those are the new jobs. That's what's going to power us out of these unprecedented times that we're living in.
Let's talk a bit of your clientele. Would you say, is CBD, has that been a useful product for you? Is it more of the medicinal kind of side of things? Is it more the THC rec side? Is it all of the above? What has been your experience?
It's all of the above. I mean,
okay.
I was a little bit reticent about, what kind of business model we would have. There weren't that many in the province to do some to do research on. So we really went into it not knowing. Obviously, we're on the rec side, but we're seeing people come in using everything. And the average age as well has surprised me. I thought we'd be having 10, 19, 20, 21, 22-year-olds coming into our store. And in fact, it's the opposite. Sure, we've got our youth, 19, 20 and up. But a lot of our clientele are, I hate to say it, Dave, but they're our age. They're in the 50s.
So young and vigorous.
Yeah. So it's quite interesting seeing a store full of basically your community. Everyone's there. Our seniors are there. The boomers are there. The middle age. Everyone is in the store, and they're all coming in for different reasons. So it's actually a nice surprise, as a new retailer to be opening a business that can serve your entire community, not just some of the stigma that's attached to cannabis and cannabis products.
Well, it's pretty inspiring. It's pretty cool to hear a small businessman, entrepreneur that's growing, and start with one store, 7. I don't, what other industries are offering those kind of opportunities? I can't really think of one. Try opening 7 restaurants and see how that goes. It's tough. And yet you're doing it. So that's amazing. Let me ask you one last question, as we, as always, seem to running out of time just to get going. What was the most surprising thing of your journey so far? If you look back and went, wow, I did not expect that. What would that be?
I think the most surprising would be the diversity in our clientele. I think that shocked me more than anything. Yeah, we kind of covered it already. And also
marketing. Is that a marketing challenge then? Like that means you have to try to sell to a whole diverse group of people. It's not like I can make my store suitable for just young people, or I can make it for like that means you have to appeal to a lot of different people from a different places in life.
The education. Yeah, for sure. The education component is a huge, and there is an appetite for that. We're finding our clients are coming in saying, "Hey, can you tell me about this?" or "I've read about this," and so that's a big part of it. And thankfully, we have the internet. so that people can find you, which is always important. And with the various social media platforms, people know very quickly you're in town and you've opened. So that's kind of covered from letting your community know. The education side, we take a lot of pride in customer service and making sure that we're giving the information that our customers need to make informed decisions. So
yeah, Louis, let me jump in here. We're a little out of time, but that I think it's a great story for an inspiration for smaller chains. Great opportunity, and it's interesting you focused on this smaller town model as an opportunity there. And although so if you're in Carleton Place, drop by to Olympia Cannabis, or soon to be in Tweed, and then you mentioned Ottawa potentially, and in 7 locations across Ontario.
That was a pleasure, Dave.
Thank you very much. This is great, and good luck. And we'll have to check back in with you in a little bit and see how you're doing.
Good luck to you as well, Dave. Thanks very much for the opportunity. Bye-bye. And take care. Bye-bye now.
The Business of Cannabis is brought to you by Cashtech Currency Products, North America's leading cash management provider for cannabis retailers. Cash recyclers, smart safes, software and services, Cashtech has everything the cannabis retailer needs to track, manage, and secure the cash earned in the dispensary. Don't take chances with your cash. Call Cashtech and solve the problem. Visit www.cashtechcurrency.com to learn more. So welcome back to the show. We are excited about our next guest, Jake Kuczeruk from ArcView Group. And Jake is VP of Business Development and Managing Director of the Management Consulting side. So those are titles that kind of hint at his deep experience. He did take his time getting into the industry, clothing, music streaming, blockchain, I've got entertainment, and the most interesting thing of all, starting a league for giant fighting robots. I'm not sure, we're not going to just talk about that, but eventually
I want to spend a whole show just on that.
Yeah, that's an hour special. But eventually migrates into cannabis, which is cool, with ArcView Group, which is a leading investor consulting group. And it's an honor to have you on the show. Welcome.
Dave, appreciate you having me on Hayes Radio, and really happy that you started this up. This is going to be fun.
So why don't we just start in a general sense? What is the ArcView Group? You guys do so much. Give us an overview, 50,000 feet, and then we'll dive down. And
50,000 feet is always hard. We do a lot. I'll tell you, we've been around for now over 10 years, known as the, primarily over the years as the largest and oldest cannabis investor network. So everybody from Ease to Meadow to Tokyo Smoke raised their initial capital through us, well north of 300 plus million deployed into 200 plus companies. We bring together the investor network together with companies seeking capital, usually at 4 events throughout the year. And along the way, we started publishing the industry leading research. Now, everything changed about 2 years ago when we were acquired by Entourage Effect Capital. We got our fund up and running. That's ArcView Ventures. Our FINRA SEC approved broker dealer up and running. That's ArcView Capital. And of course, I spearheaded the launch of ArcView Management Consulting, which is our consultancy that helps everybody from early stage companies to large enterprises navigate the cannabis ecosystem. Everything from building SOPs for dispensaries to allow them to expand to do markets, doing some due diligence, license procurement, valuation work, full go-to-market strategies. Needless to say, that takes up a lot of my day-to-day. And of course, ArcView, being so heavily tied to content, is still pumping out weekly webinars, everything from our ArcView accesses, which are on a general topic, to more kind of state or region specific type of content as well. We also have our Women's Inclusion Network. We also have an accelerator that I'm managing director of in conjunction with Founder Institute for primarily cannabis companies. But yeah, let me pause there. That's
okay. Enough. I was going to say enough. It's wow. Yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing company. That's why we're happy you came on. Let's focus a little bit first on the consulting aspect of it. I'm a dispensary. I'm a chain. What's interesting about this industry is no one isn't planning on growing. It's not true of a lot of industries. That might, we know that's not going to be true. Not everyone's going to grow and be successful, but everyone's planning on it now. What are you seeing that people are doing really well? And you go, wow, yeah, I'm seeing that. And then what are some mistakes, some things that people are tripping up on?
All right, great. That's a great question. I'd say in a COVID or post-COVID world, depending on how you
let's assume a post-COVID world, because COVID was not. No one had COVID in their business plan, and fair enough.
I'll tell you, many
post-COVID and normal. Yeah.
Many of these consumers obviously, are trying to limit human interaction. Of course, being able to also limit, cash. Cash is seen as dirty and carrying, potential particles there that could make you sick. So switching to cashless solutions has been big. The companies like Kaliva. So Kaliva is a great example of when COVID hit. They opened up curbside delivery. I think that led to a 600x increase in net new members of their collective. And for those who don't know, they're a large vertically integrated operator in California. Jay-Z's Monogram brand and stuff is kind of in conjunction with them. But I'll tell you, they were smart for getting on the curbside and delivery pickup quickly. I mean, adding 600x to their members is nothing to be sneezed at. And I'll tell you, the other side of this that we're seeing is just being able to get a location set up in an emerging territory. It's the battles are still being fought at the local level in some of these municipalities where some, case in point, towns like Fresno, and here in California, that, they're told 1 week they have the green light and you should snap up a building and get ready to open it. And then they're told, well, maybe hold on to it and we'll let you know next January what we want you to do. So there's a lot of this push-pull dealing with
that's on the crazy
side. Yeah, that's the company I mentor for has been going through that exact experience. But it's just, hearing the mixed messaging and, unfortunately trying to, make sure your existing retail location is successful, yet still starting to think about those next moves. And the biggest thing we see is really turning over the keys and letting somebody else run the operation. That seems to be, one of the hardest areas here is, whoever started it often kind of wants to retain full control, make sure that they still have an eye on anything that might go awry.
So is HR a huge, huge problem? Like getting people, training them, skilled people? I mean, I know and that's COVID related.
Oh yeah.
I can't imagine that's not exacerbated in the cannabis space.
And that does kind of harken back to what I was saying about, in kind of emerging territories and how they struggle with personnel. Case in point, we have a client from our consultancy that's in Oklahoma. And, their biggest pain point is they cannot find quality retail workers they can have to stay around, especially those who are vertically integrated, those who are doing cultivation, finding people with real cultivation experience that want to stay in that area, even if it's a little bit more remote, is a big challenge. So always retaining talent, attracting experienced, seasoned talent, not just cannabis enthusiasts, but those who actually understand the endocannabinoid system and, and terpenes. And I'll tell you, that's certainly a big part of it. But on the HR side, fortunately, there is some quality training out there put out by everybody from Oaksterdam to Green Flower Media. I mean, we're just scratching the surface with regards to making sure that anybody, regardless of their role at a retail location, knows what they should be doing in their day-to-day.
No, yes, and I can see. One day I see people going to university. There'll be programs. There'll be careers. Maybe we're not there yet.
Oh,
it's definitely careers.
Oh no, we're there.
We're definitely there. Yeah,
maybe in California. And that's okay. I stand corrected. So take us a bit about let's move on, like the investing environment. What's that like right now?
Yeah, I'd say, and you'll hear this from pretty much anybody you talk to that's on the side of the table, but we really are in the age of M&A right now. It's pretty insane. Watching what's the activity in the last year, even last 6 months, where the big want to grow bigger, and they have shareholders and they have stakeholders that need to see expansion, need to see movement. So it is a little bit of an arms race right now with everything from vertically integrated retailers and brands out there trying to snap up and vertically integrate as much of their shelf space as possible and own these brands that they're actually working with. It's acquiring other, dispensary locations. So, it's not enough to just own San Francisco, but, you want to own the East Bay and you want to own the South Bay. And it's a little bit of an arms race. So, and it's not just the large MSOs and the biggest players at the table that are doing this. I see a lot of very small Canadian publics with very small caps, coming down here and trying to acquire, as many brands as they possibly can. Sometimes all stock deals, sometimes a mix of stock and cash. But it's a completely different environment. I mean, I see companies that have done maybe 10,000 a month in sales. I've seen one company that's only sold 1,400 products to date, and they're getting acquisition offers because they have a great story. So the story means a lot. Having the brand means a lot. I even, have heard through the grapevine, one of these operators is pursuing an acquisition just to give his team something different to work on, something that gets them excited again, a company that's aligned with their values. So that's what you're seeing on the front lines. Certainly, a lot of smaller private investor dollars continuing to flow, while most of them were on pause during 2020 to see how things really shook out. A lot of investors were burned and coming out of 2018, 2019, investing in projects that were talking a big game with with what they thought they could return, but ultimately really failed to produce the yields, if it was on the cultivation side that they were shooting for, or, just get the sales traction that they were hoping for as a brand. So yeah, I guess after an age of companies making very, very big claims about what they thought they could be doing from a revenue perspective, we saw a real pullback, had investors a little bit more sitting on their hands. But now we've really started to see that come to an end. And certainly, as mentioned, those with a good story or good traction or who are being innovative are starting to get the looks from investors or potential acquirers.
What would you say, because you kind of finish with, okay, if you wanted to be acquired, what do you need to do? That was part of your business plan. So flesh that out a bit. What is it? You're building a dispensary, you have a nice business. What do you need to do over the next 12 months, 18 months to even be a candidate for acquisition? You said be innovative. What does that mean in real terms?
I'll tell you, it's the bar has been lowered. I think as I talked to, I don't want to name any names, but some of these very large chains of dispensaries, and they are hungry. They are saying, I don't care if the dispensary is doing 150 a month, 200 a month. I mean, certainly something that's on the low end, and even very rural communities. They see that as another number and a new territory that they can truly own as the big players in that respective town. So I'll tell you, being innovative is certainly part of it, but being well networked is really coming to be a little bit even more valuable. It's just about getting out there and making them aware of what you have available. There is strength in numbers if you're able to tie in with another and acquire and make your own empire a little bit larger. That's only going to make you more attractive to one of the biggest players, the Curaleafs of the world, to come in and acquire you. Of course, as mentioned, the vertical integration goes a long way. If you have products on your shelves that are unique to your retailer, your own internal products, we do see that goes a long way, as many of these acquirers are motivated by more brands. So I'll tell you, if you don't have delivery, you don't have curbside, but you live in an area where this is permitted, it's time to start thinking about it. And of course, it's time to also just get out there and get creative with regards to, I'd say kind of uncovering new territory and being innovative. And the way I see that is often through social equity initiatives. I mean, I've even seen, municipalities that want to spin up their own community-run dispensaries to benefit the local community and get the local community back to work. I mean, this is the age that we're in now.
So just to follow up on that, Jake, I've also spoken with a number of dispensary owners that are concerned about, oversaturation in certain markets. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, of course. And certainly I'm somebody who lives down here in Los Angeles, and, it's very oversaturated with regards to retail. But the problem is you don't know which dispensaries are legitimate and which ones aren't. We're plagued with an environment in which it's pretty night and day between some of these more gray market operators and what kind of products they are putting on their shelves. Versus going into a stizzy or a lemonade or the artistry. I mean, there are some beautiful dispensaries down here that, of course, are blending art and consumption and food. And I mean, it's just a different ballgame down here. So I would say oversaturation, is something that is a real concern. But at the end of the day, like I said, by adding things like a consumption lounge, adding stuff that gets repeat customers. I mean, that's how you can stay increasingly more relevant, instead of just being another that may be legit, maybe is not, but, you don't really have strong points of differentiation.
No, it's great.
So this is basically one last question. We don't have a ton of time left, but you mentioned the events and all the education stuff you do. Take us through a bit of what events you have coming up. People want to get involved, like you said, network, learn what events or are you hosting over the next little while that people might be interested in.
Sure. No, like everybody else, we're starting to get close to getting back to in-person events. We are I think we're just sponsoring an event out in the Hamptons coming up in about a month's time.
Starting, okay.
Yeah, but it's looking like a pretty fancy event, expecting, I think, about 500 or so people, which is pretty consistent with what they did right before the pandemic with their previous iteration. But if you're interested in going out to the Hamptons, it seems like there's actually almost a week worth of different kinds of content. Everything from smaller happy hours that we're putting on. This is all kind of coming up a month from today. So out here in California, we'll be doing some VIP dinners, some infused dinners. We'll be doing some more kind of networking and happy hour events. There's an HR conference we might be putting on with one of our strategic alliance partners in Colorado. But I'll tell you, the way to find out about all this, both physical and digital events, is going to be arcviewaccess.com. You can also take a look at all of our replays of all of our past digital content. But if we're announcing anything, you can take a look at the full calendar there and see what we have coming up. But like everybody else,
Jake, you just made my job job easier, so I didn't have to read the website. So thank you.
Oh yeah,
I just had a note. Make sure you mention the website. So we did. Anyway, Jake, thank you very much. That's a lot of great. It's very interesting. It's such a fascinating industry. It's unlike any other industry. You can't just open the dispensary. It's the bigger picture as well, but it's also the little picture. It's also little things like curbside, like innovating, like taking care of your staff, like hiring good people, educating. So
caring inclusively, that's a huge part of it. You want a dispensary staff that actually mimics the same, kind of the same values, cultural diversity, and everything that your customers have as well. You want to make sure they feel comfortable. So it's if you are operating a dispensary, I challenge you, put people to work and put people to work that might not necessarily have had the opportunity to get into this industry before now.
That's a great way to end it. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Jake.
Thanks, Jake,
for coming on. And we're definitely going to have you back. That was a lot. We have about 3 or 4 more shows of stuff to talk about.
Well, there's nothing I love talking about more than the business of
then the giant robots. We didn't even touch on that. And I can't believe it.
Yeah,
we'll get to that.
I'm going to actually call you just to talk about that.
Yeah, we'll do. It's a 2-hour special now. Anyway, you take care. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jake.
Thank you again. Appreciate it.
The Business of Cannabis. Cannabis is brought to you by CashTech Currency Products, North America's leading cash management provider for cannabis retailers. Cash recyclers, smart safes, software and services, CashTech has everything the cannabis retailer needs to track, manage, and secure the cash earned in the dispensary. Don't take chances with your cash. Call CashTech and solve the problem. Visit www.cashtechcurrency.com to learn more. Well, that's our show for today. I'd like to thank our guests for coming on and sharing their insights, and invite you to tune in next week when, once again, we'll be talking to the movers and shakers in the world of cannabis, keeping you up to date with what's happening in one of the most dynamic retail industries in North America. So until next week, be well. And this has been The Business of Cannabis.
You're listening to Hayes Radio Network, Cannabis Lifestyle Radio.